Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. As you can see, we're in a very different environment, doing this through Skype. We had a little problem with Google and Google Talk and YouTube. This hasn't been working for the last week, but we didn't want to stop the show and wanted to make sure that we kept going on this the Mexican Soccer Show. So we're doing it a little different. You can't follow live. This has already been recorded, but we're still going to do it live. We're not going to stop and do any type of edit. So Naive, Johnny, John, make sure you keep it PG since we can't record over it or do anything like that. But welcome to all of you guys that are watching, even though this isn't live. We still appreciate you taking the time to watch this video here on YouTube, and thank you to Skype for being really reliable in these times. So let's go ahead and get started. Lots to talk about, especially with El Tri. We got the list last week, expecting it on Wednesday, and we got a little late tweet that said, you know what, we're going to be giving it out on Thursday. Don't know if that had to do with injuries or with players trying to come on, but big news out of that some of the Europeos are not on that list, and we're going to talk to you guys. I know that Naive and Cesar were on Mexican Soccer Show Express on Thursday. I was able to talk a little about the list, but I'd love to hear Johnny and John. We'll also talk about what's coming up this week with Mexico versus Canada. A very cold week in Canada, even though spring has sprung. It will be raining in the next couple of days. It looks like clear skies for Friday. Even though I think it's a dome there at BC Palace there in Canada. But we'll be talking to these guys a little bit about what to expect, maybe a possible starting 11 for Mexico. And then we'll be going into Liga MX, the craziness of Liga MX, to see if it still surprises you that a team like Chivas can score so many goals against one of the best teams in the league. A team like Dorados can put more than 2 goals towards the end of a game, or a team like León, who we still don't know if it's a Liga MX Liguilla team or is it not. So lots to talk about. And one more subject, Mr. Memo Ochoa. Now that given the playing time, we have our Memo Ochoa correspondent, as you know him, Mr. John Hugo. I'm sure who will be gloating through this in this episode. But first, let's say hi to our guest today. You know Naive Morani, the Mexico City ESPN FC. You know Johnny Rico, who is in the San Diego, Tijuana area that currently works in the Xolos camp. And now we bring one of our guests, Mr. John Jago. John, I know you write for Soccer Chronicle, a friend of Footmex Source, and you also do some video editing. So we'd love to say hi to you and introduce yourself for our audience as first time here as a guest.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys, Wiso and Johnny and Naive. Thanks for letting me be a part of your show. As you said, my name is John Jagu. I live in Austin, Texas. I named Mexico City native. Lived in the States for the past, 30 years or so. But I wrote for Big Soccer for many years and decided to move on from that. And I work with some really good friends over at Soccer Chronicle. And we also do a little podcast that we broadcast on Wednesday nights.
Yes.
Called the Dos a Cero podcast,
yes.
Which is a lot of fun. It's a little R-rated, but we do have a good time.
The Dos a Cero podcast, I know the guys that are there. If you guys don't know, John and I and a lot of the guys came from back in the day, early 2000s, where we were the only ones talking. In fact, I came a little late, but we were the only ones talking about Mexican soccer in English on BigSoccer.com and the Mexico boards. We started this little culture there, and it kind of evolved from there. I know we had a lot of people visit, and that's pretty much the only time when you did talk about Mexico soccer. So the guys from Big Soccer that are watching us today, welcome to the Mexican Soccer Show. And John, I know you guys have a great Dos a Cero podcast, hilarious, lots of insights. I listen to you guys. A little bit R-rated, and I think that's the spiciness if you want that content, but a lot of insight.
I think we should go R-rated.
Johnny, maybe we should go on that podcast sometime. I think you fit perfectly. Not that Naive and Tom and I couldn't do it, but no, it's definitely very fun. One of the writers for Footmex Source, Mr. Joel Aceves, is there. Soccer Chronicle guys. So lots of fun. Definitely, if you want more of it on Wednesday nights, like John said, tune in at What time do you guys do that, John?
Well, we're kind of like this show, which we kind of aim for 7 p.m. Pacific and as long as we're on by 7:30 or so, we're happy.
Nice.
It just
The true
takes
Mexican
time to
way.
get everybody.
Nice.
That's right.
Nice.
But no, it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate the plug, and it's good to be on this show, and I'm really excited to be heading toward Vancouver. I'm actually flying to Seattle Thursday, and then driving across the border from there. So I'm looking forward to the trip.
John, did you say you're from Mexico City, or did you live there for a while?
No,
Okay.
I was born there, and I lived there till I was about 12, 13, and then I moved to the States, and I've been living in Texas for the majority of that. I spent 1 year in Philadelphia, but I've been living in Texas.
I hear a stronger Texas accent than a Chilango accent.
Well, I mean, I have been here for 30 years, so I can. Si quieres puedo hablar como chilango como todos, pero no, I'll speak with my Texan accent for now.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Love to hear your thoughts. I know you went over it, Naive, with Cesar over the your thoughts on the call up, the list. Some notable people that are missing over the weekend. Chapito Montes saying that he knew. That it was okay for him not to be called. He's not at 100%. The lone players like Gallito Vasquez also not on. To you, Naive, what did you think about the overall list that came out? Your perception for these games that are coming up here against Canada.
Yeah. First of all, buenas noches, caballeros, and also to the audience that will watch us later. I think it's a young list, actually. When you see the names like Pizarro, Orbelin, and Lozano, and Pizarro again. Those names stand out, I think. I think it's a young list with young players. And I think the big miss, in my opinion, when I see, what's going on in the league, I think it's Oribe Peralta. I think Oribe Peralta has 7 goals in the season. And Lalo Herrera hasn't had the best of clausuras. I do understand that in the 2015 Apertura he did excellent. But in the clausura, he's been in a slow start. But then again, this is the list that sort of Juan Carlos Osorio has been able to sort of develop through the months that he's been here in Mexico City. This is his first list where he has had a good amount of games to observe these players. But it is surprising because, you see Cándido Ramírez, for example, Isaac Brizuela, who's practically only had 1 good month in this present year. So he's counting a lot on the youth. I think that's the big plus.
Johnny, to you, does it seem like that Juan Carlos Osorio is trying to look for players? He already knows the Oribe Peraltas. He already knows maybe some other players that are on the list, like Gallito Vasquez, and he's trying to find that new blood because coming in the summer, we do have 2 tournaments, and it's still not decided to see who's going to be playing in the first and the second. It is against Canada. This isn't a world power. It is a qualifier. They are second in the group, but do you think he's just trying to see what other ones would fit into his system and trying to give new guys a lift to the national team?
He probably is, and because that's the only explanation I can take. Why such big names are being left out, and I hope to see some of those big names that are absent. I hope to see them at Copa America, but I also think that you can't be experimenting. This is World Cup qualifiers. This isn't your typical game in the U.S. against Guatemala on a FIFA date. This is for a spot at the World Cup, and he needs to be taking these games a little more seriously.
Okay, John, to you, big notable miss that nobody was expecting. Lots of people already had it. I know that the big question was maybe a Giovanni Dos Santos, but he hasn't been informed. He's injured. Where the tema of Carlos Vela once again, and it's interesting that you're on today because me and you had a conversation in San Antonio about Carlos Vela, about him not choosing to be with the national team. You and I speculated that maybe there were some insights that haven't come out yet. If it's maybe something, I think rumors here or there. It wasn't the full story, wasn't out, but Vela not being on the team. A lot of people thinking that because of that night going to the Chris Brown concert that had to do with it. He was also booed in the stadium over the weekend by the fans. But him not being on it, do you really buy was Real Sociedad asking for the player to be in, or do you think it goes back again to that same old Vela drama?
I really can't say for with any kind of certainty what the reality is, but the official story is that Real Madrid or Real Sociedad rather asked the week before the I guess the 2-week window before they could send out the request that said, hey, would you mind not? So that would have happened before his concert. So if that's the case, I mean, Real Sociedad has struggled a little bit this year. Maybe they need to get all their players in line to make the big push so that they don't, either fall further back and possibly get stuck in the relegation zone, and just maybe it's time for them to evaluate the talent of what they have in the last month. So I can kind of understand. I mean, the reality is, for a trip like this, maybe Carlos Vela isn't necessarily needed. I don't think there's much drama. I think that all that's behind him. I mean, the fact that he's played for Mexico for the past, he played in the Gold Cup, and then he came for the qualifiers against El Salvador and Honduras. So I don't think there's really that much. I know that there's a lot of folks that would just love to make sure that there's something more to the story, but I really don't think there is. I think that this will get. It's going to be over, and then Carlos Vela will be back for the Copa America, and everyone. And if he scores goals, everyone will forget everything that happened with the Chris Brown. Just the fact that he had that, just any kind of controversy at all. I think it's just poor management. He didn't really know, or that he could have asked permission for the con. They would have said yes, and then he had to make up an excuse for why it was late or why it didn't show up. And just the whole thing is just. And a lot of it maybe could also do with the fact that maybe Carlos Vela just doesn't want to be a Real Sociedad anymore. So maybe he's given them reasons to possibly start shopping around on the transfer market. But he's really hurting himself because, the higher transfer means he's going to make more money. So I think the best way for him to exit Real Sociedad is to start playing better so that he ends up leaving in the summer on a high note and they get more money for him, which means it's more money in his pocket.
Well, definitely, I don't want to say I don't agree with Real Sociedad, but all of a sudden saying, you know what, we're not going to give you a player because we're struggling. How many other teams are struggling that need their players that are there? And at what point does Juan Carlos Osorio say, you know what, no, we can't have you. Chicharito, needs a player. And Naive, is there a Liga weekend this? I mean, Carlos Vela
No.
It's not like is there important games coming up that
I think
there?
It's a strange situation overall because like what John was saying, it's interesting. I mean, it looks like Carlos Vela wants to leave Real Sociedad, and he's doing a lot of acts that sort of push that to happen as soon as possible. The reason that he's getting the boos in San Sebastian, the booing overall, is because he's wearing the captain's armband, and he's not acting like a captain. And, Real Sociedad is a historic club that really is intense when it comes to who the captain should be. And the thing is, Carlos Vela hasn't acted like a captain in the season. Carlos Vela is nowhere near the best version of Carlos Vela that we have been able to see in the past years. So, I mean, I think it's a turmoil because you really don't know what Vela you will have come Copa America. Will it be the Vela that has been slow and sluggish throughout this whole season? Or will you have the Vela that potentially could be that difference maker in a game against Uruguay or Venezuela, for example? So, I mean, I think here, in this situation, Chucky Lozano can take advantage of this opportunity because if he does well in these games, he's going to become a real option. I mean, he might be a player that could potentially be on the Olympic team, but if he's scoring the goals in La Liga MX, if he's scoring the goals with El Tri Mayor, the option will become real.
Yes. And as much as everybody wants to see Vela and Giovanni Dos Santos, I guess it's never going to happen. I mean, it's just that dream of 2005, seeing him in the national team. Vela was absent for so many years. Giovanni wasn't in shape. Finally, when Carlos Osorio comes in, that's just not going to happen. I think
same similar thing with Blanco Hernandez. I used to die for him to one thing or another. One of them, they never seem to be able to play together.
I think Johnny, I don't know if he was able to hear that, John or Nai, were you able to hear what Johnny said? I think he was cutting out a little bit.
It was cutting out a little bit, but I did understand Cuauhtémoc and Hernandez part.
Yeah, the Matador Luis Hernandez. Yeah, that's similar thing. Everybody wanted to see those two play together, but one thing or another, they just never found each other on the field.
Yes. Before we end the El Tri call-up conversation, Rafa Marquez. Rafa Marquez once in the squad. It's going to be his 5th qualifying run, and who knows if he's going to be in Russia 2018. But John, to you, Rafa Marquez, although I don't see him as a starter. Who knows? It is against Canada. But what does it mean to have one more time El Kaiser in Michoacan in a qualifier? Is that a good thing for Mexico or overall bad because they still haven't found someone to give him that? Or was it just leadership that he was brought on?
I think it was probably more leadership than anything else. I mean, Rafa has not had a good season. He had to beg forgiveness from the Barra 51 this over the weekend with a terrible performance that they had against Cruz Azul. So, I think he's just there more as a caudillo than anything else, someone to, maybe help Osorio or maybe even help the defenders, figure out what they need to do. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think if he plays, he might come on as maybe a second-half substitute at the Azteca. I just don't see, he doesn't have the legs. He certainly has the positioning still, but he has not looked good really all year. It's what happens to us old guys. We just don't, the legs go, and it just, But I just don't see why. I mean, honestly, it seems to me that it's more based on past reputation than anything else. But Osorio can certainly pick his brain and learn from him, and he can certainly show the other guys what they need to do defensively. So, in that sense, I think it's a great call. I mean, there's a reason why Claudio Suarez went to the World Cup when he was 40. I mean, he was helping out the young defenders. So I kind of expect Rafa to kind of have that same role over the next few years. And as you said, the worst thing for Mexico is that he actually has to play because that means that there's nobody else. Yeah. But I think they have to have a couple other good guys right now.
Well, yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying, and bringing him on and seeing that I think it's historical 5 qualifiers and maybe even a World Cup. Who knows to bring him in just like Claudio Suarez. Naive, to you, you're starting 11. I'm sure you already pondered. John, start looking at that right now. What you're wanting to see, but overall. In that 11 that we're looking at, do you see any debutantes, anybody coming on as a first in that list? And over the list, goalkeepers Alfredo Talavera, Chuy Corona, and Picolín Palacios, who a lot of people were kind of discounting and who I think also had an amazing year, probably one of the best goalkeepers. But no surprise there. Midfielder, defenders Diego Reyes, Néstor Araujo, Héctor Moreno, Yasser Corona, Rafael Marquez, Paul Aguilar, and Miguel Ayun. Midfield, Jesus Molina. You know what? Let's just stop there. Let's go into the defenders, guys. And Naive, to you, as you've seen Juan Carlos Osorio, the guy, with the 3 different pens. Is he going to stick to his 5? What he was been doing over with El Salvador, with having 4 or 5 defenders. What do you see him coming out, and who do you see as a guy starting in?
No, man, I think it's interesting to see what will happen because I think Rafa will play, and if he plays with a back line of 5, It wouldn't surprise me to see him in the starting 11. But that depends on the setting and what he has in mind. I mean, I do think that the team that he has right now, it can be a 4-3-3, and that would mean that, Reyes and Moreno would be the center backs, where it could be. Keep in mind that Moreno has played as left back in PSV, so it could be that we could see Moreno as a left back, but that will depend on this Layun versus Aguilar debate. If Layun should play on the right or and whatnot, but I think the lineup is made up. I think or the list is made up for Layun to be on the left, Aguilar on the right, Reyes and Moreno with a back line of 4. That's what I think.
Yeah, which is the old Piojo kind of, and looking at Juan Carlos Osorio playing through Layun a lot, or that Paul, depends on the right. Johnny, to you, looking at these defenders, looking at a midfield, it's surprising that Jesus Molina, which I think is having a better year than any of the León midfielders, but obviously there's no question Andrés Guardado and Héctor Herrera where they get to start. Will we see a Marco Fabián, in your opinion, or especially looking for that defensive mid, or would we see any different there?
If going off what Naive said, a 4-3-3, I would definitely not waste a midfield spot on Marco Fabián. I'd definitely go with Molina, Herrera, and Guardado. Um, yeah, so if it's four defenders, then I'd go with Molina, Herrera, Guardado, and maybe Tecatito Corona.
Yes. And it's interesting looking at the list because in forwards, I mean, we have Isaac Bruzuela who's listed, and it can be mixed. Daniel Ramirez, Irvin Lozano, Javier Aquino, which are not forwards, but at the same time, they can play that part of going up forward. Only Lalo Herrera, Tecatito again, Javier Hernandez, and Raúl Jimenez. Raúl Jimenez will be the only three that are really forward. So you have those hybrid players, which we're seeing more in this game. John, to you, do you agree with the 4-3-3, or do you see anything different, and who would be at the top?
Well, I don't think he'll be a 4-3-3 at all. I think that he'll stick with a 4-4-2 and be a little bit more defensive against Canada, and then switch it up maybe with a 4-2-4 when they play at the Azteca. But as far as the midfield, I think a guy that could certainly sneak in there and play. I think Aquino's going to start for sure because he loves the guys to go out wide, and that's tailor-made for Aquino. This is a formation, a style of play that really suits Aquino, whereas it didn't suit him so well when he was with Miguel Herrera. So I think that he'll play for sure. He'll probably start. There's no question he'll probably start. And a guy that I think could really sneak in there and might start is Orbelín Pineda, because he plays that role for Chivas. He's done well for Chivas. He's one of the few bright spots that Chivas has had this season. I think he's a great player, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he and Guardado man the midfield and let the two wingers, whether it's Aquino or Tecatito or Lozano or Brizuela. I mean, he has stacked the list with guys that can play wide.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious to me that he's going to want to do that, and he's going to want to do that both in Vancouver and at the Azteca. So because of that, I think that there's going to be some opportunities.
But also, it's you can play wide, but it all depends, where you put those wide players. On a 4-3-3, you can play wide if you put, your attacking wingers. You put a guy like Tecatito Corona on one side, and another guy like Lozano or even Fabian, who I'm not a fan of wasting a 11 spot on. Those guys are wide forwards, and you can still use the width of the field that way.
You can, but I don't think that he's going to want to have just three midfielders. I think, especially up in Vancouver. I mean, he's even said, he says it repeatedly that when he's on the road, he wants to make sure that he has more midfielders. So because of that, I think that you'll definitely see that. I don't think that we'll see a 4-3-3 at all.
Interesting.
It'll be because of maybe modification during the game.
Yeah, and do you think we're going to see Chicharito and Raúl Jimenez start in Vancouver?
Sure. I mean, we saw the same thing in Honduras.
In Honduras.
So I don't see why it would be any different.
Yeah, I mean, you're typical too. And I think I go with that, John, with the 4-4-2 because of having I think he loves a player like Aquino, just like you said. And then there's so many that can play those spots on the wings. And if you look at all the players between them, the mids and the forwards, that can rotate and can switch up to it. But interesting that we're seeing a coach that plays one way and plays the second way, caters the teams to the opposition, which is something that we haven't seen before in this list of players. So interesting to see. We'll be obviously covering the Mexican national team in Vancouver. I'll definitely be there. Tom is going to be there, and also John. We'll get to see John and talk to him.
You're
going over there.
The one position we didn't cover, which I think is we're lacking real options, is the goalkeeper. Like, out of this whole list, I'd rather see Rafa Marquez suit up as goalkeeper.
Talavera, Picolín, and Chuy Corona?
Yeah, I'd rather see Rafa Marquez in the goal than anywhere on the field.
Right. No, I think it's either. We didn't talk about it, but I think Talavera has a start from looking at JCO, unless someone else thinks that Picolín is going to get one, even though he didn't get any of the games before. And Chuy Corona, although he had a great game, I think Talavera has it. What do you think?
Well, I mean, to me, the starting goalkeeper should be Memo Ochoa, and
yes,
I mean, regardless of what happened with his club team, I mean, there are so many goalies all over the world for national teams that play for the national team, and they have no problem. So to me, that's the option. Now, I will say that the goalkeeper in Mexico is probably one of the deepest, if not the deepest position for the national team. So
Yeah.
is there really that much of a drop-off between Ochoa and Talavera? Probably not so much. Now, Picolín, I'm a Pumas guy. I've been a Pumas guy my whole life, and he's, he's had a good couple of years. There's no question about it. I think that it's a good reward for him. I don't think that he'll play, but I mean, he certainly deserves to be in the conversation to be a second or third keeper. I have no problem with that. But the reality is, Memo Ochoa needs to be the goalkeeper. End of story.
Exactly.
Well, there you go, Johnny. From what we've seen,
and Picolín has had a good couple of years, but at the end of the day, he's still a Picolín. Let's not forget that.
And that's a good conversation to bring us into Ochoa. 2 clean sheets, Naive. You talked about it on Twitter and how huge that is. Tell us a little about that before we get into our Liga MX talk. Memo Ochoa, was this just easy teams? I mean, from the first game that I saw, definitely well played. I didn't get to watch the second game that he has, but tell us a little bit what's happening with Memo Ochoa up in Europa.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think it's good news because I mean, I think considering the fact that he played just several Copa del Rey matches and all of a sudden he has to go into get into the mold of things of starting and understanding his teammates. I mean, it's because I don't think he has that many problems over there in Malaga because, there's the barrier of the language is not a problem, which was a problem at the beginning in Ajaccio. He had to learn French and so he could communicate with the center backs and the left backs, the full backs. But in Spain, it's different. I think he feels comfortable. I mean, I just think he just needed the opportunity to show it off. And I think it helps him that he will stay in Spain during this FIFA break because he will get more involved with the teammates and he could consolidate himself because the more clean sheets he has in La Liga, the likelier that there will be several teams looking to snatch him during the summer.
Yes, sir. Hey, question on this EU passport. It should be 3 years. It should be coming up. I mean, would it be 2 more years? I think that's another reason why. Would he make the choice of leaving again if he's not playing because of how important it is to get that passport? And he left when he was in Ajaccio, so it'll be interesting to see that question. Yeah. All right. Well, let's.
Well, the more important question for him is for him not to go to a team where the other goalkeeper is a compatriot of the goalkeeper coach. Like a situation in my life.
Who was? It wasn't Kameni. Who was before? Because Kameni was number 2, and I remember we're all talking.
Willy Caballero
Willy Caballero, which was, which we also
went to Manchester City.
Yeah, to Manchester City, in which we all saw, big shoes to fill. Willy Caballero was leaving. Ochoa was coming up, and then obviously we saw that. I was actually watching the show that we did. It was Tom and I when we heard the news, and we were talking about it, about him finally getting a team, and it's pretty good, and not once was it mentioned that he probably wasn't going to play. Interesting enough, but let's go ahead and move on. I would like to say that Naive, John, and Johnny, no Mexicans scored this weekend, right? Over in Europe, I don't think, unless I missed it. I was a little busy with England, but I don't think anybody scored. Which, in looking at all my notes, this is the first weekend in 2016 that a Mexican has not scored in Europe. We went from, I think, January 24th when the league started up until now, which I think
that's not so bad.
No, it's not bad.
No Mexicans score in Mexico. That's
it's not bad at all. But I was keeping track because I knew this was already a record. So I'm gonna go look back into my notes and see if that works. But you're right, John. Bringing up the subject that when no Mexican, and you know what? I think it has happened. Or very, very close to it looking at that. But let's go ahead and talk about Liga MX. Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. Obviously, the big story, I don't care who you are, but if anyone got a perfect, 9 out of 9 games in the last past Liga MX, you're some kind of wizard because there is no way you could have seen any of that kind of happen. I know Johnny finally got a star in our wonderful Quinela, I think 5 out of the 9. But not even close to what Soccer Mexicana
goes to show it takes the wackiest week in the entire league for me to get a star.
For you to win. But I'm going to go through all 3 of you kind of like a little question, and we'll start with you, Naive. What was the most surprising thing about this weekend to you?
I would have to say, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I think I didn't see Chofi Lopez
Trophy.
getting all
Everyone's
this.
talking about Trophy now. Kids are
And
gonna be named Trophy now.
the goals he scored, he got a brace, and then of course the win. I mean, it was convincing win over Rayados. And I mean, I think people are saying, well, several of Rayados players were already thinking about the CONMEBOL qualifiers. Specifically looking at Cardona, Jovi, and Sanchez. But I don't think so. I mean, I think Chivas has been showing some good glimpses since the Clásico. Even though they lost against America, they did show some glimpses there, and it's looking well. With Gulit Peña scoring goals and not starting Bravo. Bravo's not involved in all this good momentum, which is interesting with Chivas. But Chofi Lopez's brace was a surprising note, I would say.
John, to you, surprising. I know you tweeted out early in the day about the 4 giant clubs. I followed that tweet. I liked it. Was that the most surprising thing, that it hasn't happened? Try to get into your head.
I mean, the Cuatro Grandes, they always talk about these 4 immense powers. And
for those that don't know, go ahead and talk. Which are the 4?
Yeah, I'm talking Pumas, of course, and then Chivas, Cruz Azul, and then there's another team that I think Club America, I think. But anyway, it was the first time. The first time since 2012 that all 4 won in the same weekend, and I think, and if I'm not mistaken, it's only the 4th time that's happened in 11 years, which I think is really pathetic. But it also shows, people say that, that shows how mediocre the league is. No, I think that shows how competitive the league is.
Yeah,
there's no, people that call Liga MX mediocre are just not watching, because they might compare it to the way that Barcelona plays or Real Madrid. Well, guess what? Those are the best teams in the world. So there are a lot of teams that aren't going to live up to that comparison.
And for the most part, Club America does their part, to get this kind of record. But, the other 3 need to kind of step up. America's not going to win those games either.
Well, to you, Johnny, America and León, let me ask you, and take. This is going to be really hard. I don't even know why I'm asking this. Take your eagle glasses off. But are you content with America right now? I mean, can
3
we
wins
buy
in a
it?
row? Hell yeah!
Can we buy it? I mean, America is a contender for the. Are you finally content?
Never content without a trophy, but for the time being,
okay,
3 wins in a row. Hell yeah, I'm happy.
All right. Well, there you go. I know I was talking Americanistas over León. Regardless of the injuries that we saw there. Another question to you, Mr. Naib. Let's talk about Tigres. A Tigres that is in the Liguilla right now. Not the top, not the bottom. It's in there. A lot of people talking, maybe saying that it's a little flat, maybe uninspiring. The forwards aren't scoring. They haven't scored in the last 3 games. A Gignac that we just don't see the same. Do you think he's just kind of taking it easy before? Because here comes, the CONCACAF championships that are coming up with the Conca champions, the Liguilla. Is this a time to not push the players so much so they can end well towards it? Or what's happening with that Tigres that we saw, the most expensive lineup with the best team that most of people picked, the winners that, haven't seen that spark from what we saw. I'm sorry, a Puebla, not being able to get the win.
And then a Puebla with 10 men, because Kobe was
I guessed that result.
but I mean, I'm not seeing a Sobi's in the same a little bit, big. What's going on with Tigres, and it's something to worry about.
I think with Tuca looked calm actually after the scoreless draw over there in Querétaro in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League semifinals, and he sort of mentioned the fact that Tigres played about 70 games in 2015, 70 games, and let's keep in mind that Berretti doesn't switch the lineup so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see the same, for example, you see Sobis, Gignac, Aquino, and Dam. That's basically been the forward since, the summer, and the midfielders there. I think a series of injuries has also sort of hurt Tigres, looking at the cases like, for example, Dueñas, Israel Jimenez, Torres Nilo. I mean, you're taking basically the 2 starting fullbacks have not been available as of late. And then Guti Estrada got an injury. So I don't know how serious the injury is, but it looks like it's going to be a long one. Also got injured in Puebla. So a lot of things are coming together here. And I think, we'll see how he's able to respond, because I think, he's in a dilemma right now because of the injuries keep coming. Tigres sort of seems short of a squad, and Tigres is a team that needs to compete for the Conca champions. I think it's definitely one of the favorite ones there. So if you keep that in mind, and also that they have to get into La Liguilla, it's different. And I think a lot of Mexican clubs are playing Tigres now with a lot of more respect than they used to. I mean, I think Tigres already has won this sort of respect that it didn't have, and it's one of the main reasons it makes Liga MX so competitive. Teams like Tigres that invest a lot of money and are really powerful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And the reason why I asked if he's just taking a comment is because I would have thought Tuca would be off the rails, especially not be able to get the three points against Puebla. But in seeing it in what's coming up, to you guys, and I'll start with you, John. We're starting to look at what's shaping into the Liguilla. What is the best team for you, as you've seen in and out, defense, offense, that you think could win the title already? Keeping in mind that obviously anything can happen in the Liguilla, but at the same time, the most complete team. If you had to bet on who will win the championship, I think this is a good time for us to speculate in the fact that we already have 10 jornadas. We've seen what the ups and downs of the teams. Who's definitely a contender. But to you guys, and start thinking about Johnny and Naive. But I'll start with you, John, our guest. If you could say the top team, who would that be?
Well, I would have to say right now it would be Monterrey, despite their setback they had this weekend at the Tamalera against Guadalajara. What makes Monterrey to me a prime candidate is that they don't have the Libertadores to play, they don't have the Champions League to play, so all they have is league. And I'm not sure honestly where they are in Copa MX. I don't pay attention to Copa MX that much.
They're gone. They're gone as well.
Well, there you go. So they're out. So all they have is a league. And then that to me makes them a prime candidate for them to, at least become a huge contender in the Liguilla. I would say León, but I think León is just going to be a little bit more inconsistent than what Monterrey would be. And then I would have to say America because despite the fact that they're playing in the Conca Champions, I think that they have the roster, they have the depth. They have the players, and they're just a solid team. They're solid from the back. As long as they keep their discipline in check, I think that they should have, that they should certainly make a deep run too. So I think out of those three teams, and even out of those three teams, it wouldn't surprise me if the champion comes out of those three.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I was expecting a Pachuca there. I don't know. I have no idea. But almost every weekend, I'm thinking that Pachuca right now is probably the best. And I'll add in before Johnny and I even see what you think about this. For me, I hear what you said about Monterrey, but if I have to go with a team that has a great offense and even better defense, you're looking at Pachuca with the almost completely new defense of what they struggled from last year. It's like, here you go, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and they were given to him. A Pachuca that has beaten Monterrey, I think America, and Tigres. Was it that is beating those top contender teams? So I'm going to stick with Pachuca. But go on to you, Johnny. To you, if you could pick up a team that already has it.
Well, I mean, my number one option is Club America. They have the talent. They have. I don't have much trust in the manager, but they still have the talent. And I also have to say Monterrey. I agree with everything John said about Monterrey. Plus, the fact that they have a magician on the bench called Turco Mohamed. Turco Mohamed can lead any group of players to the championship. He proved it with Tijuana. When he took over Tijuana, I thought that group was, the biggest groups of washed-up has-beens in Liga MX. Players like Edgar Castillo, who had once been a good player with Santos and then became a horrible player at America and was just kind of floating around the league, and plenty others like him. And Turco Mohamed walked into Tijuana and made them champions. He then made America champions. So to me, he is the best manager right now in Liga MX, and Monterrey have a big advantage for having Turco Mohamed.
Well, there you go. Explanations of Monterrey, Mr. Naive.
I'm really intrigued of what's going to happen at Estadio Azul in the next couple of weeks with Cruz Azul Pachuca. I think that's going to be a Liguilla caliber match. I'm really liking Pachuca. Wisa, I will agree with you there. I think the fact that Stefan Medina and Murillo are actually getting called up by Colombia helps. Omar Gonzalez is getting called up by the U.S. men's national team as well. Pizarro and Chucky are getting called by the senior national team, not the U23, the senior national team. So I think that will sort of help this team elevate more of its game because I think the motivation will go up. And Cruz Azul, look, it's crazy to think, because Tomás Boy is so eccentric and does dumb mistakes sometimes. But I think they have something going on at Cruz Azul. I don't know how far they will go, but it wouldn't surprise me if Cruz Azul reaches another final, like it was the case with Guillermo Vázquez Jr. Papa Francisco touched that jersey a couple of weeks ago over here in El Zócalo, so you never know with that luck.
Hey, it's true.
Hey, would you be surprised if Cruz Azul make it deep, semifinals, final, and crash out Cruz Azul style? Would that surprise you?
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I don't think it would surprise me if you look at
because
the league.
They have the perfect manager to do just that, to go deep and crash out.
You know what? It's funny because poor Cruz Azul because they're doing that, even though they'll probably have a great season and maybe that can happen. But you're right, Nayib, with Cruz Azul, Tigres, Monterrey, León, América. You could even throw in Pumas in there to see if they're out. Chivas, I think, is 4 points away from from the
eighth place.
From eighth place. So, and we've seen it before. You sneak into eighth place. Just think about this. Let's talk about Chivas. Sneaks into the Liguilla in the eighth. Has a trophies that's on fire. That really, really goes into and from the cantera and motivated. A Gullit Peña that's coming back. Isaac Brizuela, that's motivated. That's there. You could start, making a case that anyone can take it, and we've seen it before. León de Panzazo a year and a half ago, winning it.
Chivas don't have the squad for a deep playoff run. They have 2 wins in the season.
Well, I'm just telling you, it could happen. It would. It's strangest things that
I'm telling you, they don't have the squad.
So, all right.
Look. This is the funny thing right now that Lisa's saying. A year ago, Santos was not in the playoff zone. A year ago. And at the end of the day, they went all the way to the final. And guess who scored a lot of goals? Chuletita Orozco. Where's Chuletita Orozco at the moment?
But again, who that was a weird season. But who did Chuletita Orozco score those 4 goals on? Querétaro,
But Querétaro was in the final. Think about that as well.
Now, with Wiso's example of León had this. They were distracted by Libertadores. That season, but they had the squad.
And you never know.
León
can totally click, and Boselli's on fire, and we'll see that without the injuries that are happening, and you're gonna see maybe a León get in there. But all right, great conversation, guys. I know that we couldn't do this live, and it's almost time to go, but I want to thank you guys for coming on and talking all about this. We're going to have a lot of fun with the next couple of days following El Trio round. All of you like John and Tom that are going to be on there, Johnny and Naive that I'm sure are going to be tweeting and writing articles, especially for the Mexican Soccer Show. But anything else, guys, that's in the news that we want to look forward to, that you want to tell obviously the viewers to kind of keep an eye out? Interesting seeing that 11 in that formation in the next couple of days. But anything else?
Well, it's qualifiers week, so it's always entertaining to watch the South American games, and there's a really good one this week between I think it's on Thursday between Argentina and Chile, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that because I'll be traveling, but because that to me is probably the best game of the whole.
Argentina, Chile, Uruguay is also playing Brazil, I think, in Recife.
And that Chile Argentina game will be Juan Antonio Pizzi's debut, right? With Chile.
Gosh. Yes, yes.
My only message is for everyone to stay strong without Liga MX. These FIFA dates are always the worst times of the year.
Come on, Johnny. There's a game in Fresno you can go see. You can go to Fresno and go to the
Chivas León, no?
Park.
I get my filled with the Xolos Interescuadras.
Wait, I think is it Chivas León? I think is somewhere around there, right?
Chivas León is in Portland on Saturday.
Oh, right there. We're gonna be right there, John.
America will be.
I'll be back in Austin.
I think I think Brazil, Uruguay, Luis Suarez coming back over there in Recife, and I think also Colombia, Ecuador, which should be good. In the South American, always fun to watch in this week. And then obviously
U.S. Guatemala will be interesting.
And then also the qualifying for the Olympics, right? Colombia and the United States also face off in the same day.
No, I don't usually. I always cheer against the U.S. for everything when soccer. But I did make a promise to two guys on the Xolo squad, Paul Arriola and Alejandro Guido, that just so they can participate in the Olympics, I'd be cheering on the U.S. against Colombia.
You can't just choose all of a sudden just because you have buddies and players. Just because you have buddies and players that you see on a regular basis.
I don't want the U.S. to do good in the Olympics. I just want these two players to get the chance to play in the Olympics.
Got it. Right? Great picture, Johnny, with Piojo on his birthday. Right?
Yeah, that's good times.
You're able to get in on that. But I want to thank you, John, for jumping on. Many years you and I have talked through messages and again, finally a chance to work together in some form. Awesome time. Probably the best barbecue I've ever had. You took me in San Antonio. That's because I don't go to Texas very often, but it was amazing. Still really, really good. But we'll see each other in Vancouver. What's next for you? I know you write Soccer Chronicle. I know you'll be up there. What's expected from you? I know, and share us your Twitter. That way we have some followers here that can give you a follow.
Yeah, sure. My Twitter, it's very creative. It's J Jagoo, so it's JJAGOU at J Jagoo. That's my Twitter. I'll probably touch a little bit on my journey because it's a 4-hour flight from Austin to Seattle, and I have like a 2-hour drive up to Vancouver. I have to show my passport at the border. And it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I don't get to go to that part of the world very often, and I've never been to Vancouver, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's supposed to be a great city, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I guess folks can share my the experience of my journey that I'll be chronicling, through Twitter and then on Soccer as well. And of course, for you folks that want to.
Not Snapchat,
a bit of no Snapchat, no Snapchat.
Thank you.
A different take on things as far as not just Liga MX, but soccer in general. You can always listen to the Dos a Cero podcast, which is on Wednesdays and through iTunes as well.
Awesome, John. Well, John, thank you so much, John. Johnny and Naive, I'm sure we'll get to see lots of Twitter and lots of rants from Johnny criticizing, Talavera or Chuy or Picolín if he actually gets a start. But I'm sure we'll hear that then. And Naive, great takes, obviously, on what's happening. For the Mexican Soccer Show, Tom and I will be there on Wednesday. Definitely, we're doing a show, expecting a reporter from Canada to join us, so you can have an insight on what's happening with the Canadian team, the Maple Leafs, and seeing how what they can tell us. But at least every night we'll have a report. Our awesome intern is going to be helping me do some video, and we'll give you some news stories, some interviews, and anything to keep you definitely in tune of what's happening for the Friday game. Which odd, I don't remember the last time we played on a Friday. I think it was San Diego, Johnny. We played maybe on a Friday night. I remember trying to.
No, we played on a Friday night against El Salvador.
El Salvador. Was it really when the qualifier was a Friday?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I just don't remember flying ever and having a game on Friday. Maybe
Mexico needs to remember to schedule those games in the afternoon during the nights.
Right.
Noon.
Was that the day of the win?
I think you're cut off, Johnny.
Hello? What's us? Can you hear me?
Nah, I think you're still now cut off. But all right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure to see all of you, and thank you so much for joining us here at the Mexican Soccer Show. Sorry we weren't live. We'll try to fix what's going on with Google Talks and maybe give what's going on with YouTube, so we can definitely keep going doing this fun show live. And I apologize for all of you guys didn't get to test me on the chat. Follow us on Facebook. Mexican Soccer Show and also on Twitter. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, do so now. We're really trying to get to 1,000 followers and subscribers there. Saying hi to Mr. Cesar, who drove back to Santa Clara and it couldn't be on the show, and also Tom, that's kind of in and out and traveling, so we'll be hearing from all of them. Thank you so much to Mr. Jason, who keeps beating everybody on our prediction contest. But most of all, thank you to John. Oh yeah, he finally will get it this week. Thank you to John and Naeem and Mr. Johnny Rico for joining on the show. We'll talk to you all later on this week. See you guys later.